G'day everyone, it's been 2 weeks without Old Scholars games, but we have a great filler for you as we relive some of the classic grand finals from 2001 onwards. In SFL we've got Matty Smith, coach of the Brighton Robins, in to have a chat. He'll be talking about the improving Robins and how they're going out there with their young side. There's Furphy goal of the day, we've got Holy Trousers one more time, and of course a lot more coming up next here on The Map. Now joined by coach of the Brighton Robins, Matt Smith. Thanks for coming into the Duff TV studios.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Now, a 37-point loss out there at Pontville to your ex-side, New Norfolk, but I think the boys are looking okay.
Yeah, we are. We're improving every week, even though the scoreboard doesn't show that, because a lot of sides are obviously improving as well, the more games that they play. But we as a team and as a club know where we want to be, and we're quite happy the way that we're tracking at the minute.
Now, you got some youth out there as well. One of my favourite players in the whole league, Aaron, is Patey. Yep. I think he goes all right.
We like the long sleeves too. This stands out a bit.
Yeah. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, well, he's just a young fella. He played a handful of games last year for the Robins, and he done a full pre-season this year. And we've had a bit of a chat, Patey and I, and we're on the same page in what we want him to do at training and where we want him to improve. He's played majority of his footy forward, but because he's such a good kick of the ball and makes good decisions and is a really good runner, we feel that he's probably most valuable to us in the back line at the minute.
Aaron. Just on that, I saw the footage of the game, didn't get to see it, Matt, but Patey was one who turned the ball over a few times, but you were happy with where he was going with his decision-making. Is that something you're focusing on, the decision-making of the players?
Yeah, definitely. With Patey on the weekend, he did turn the footy over, a few times, but he was just following instructions from me. We want to be predictable to where we kick the footy. He was doing that. The execution wasn't there, and maybe that just comes back to game understanding a little bit, knowing when to bring it in and when not to bring it in, because there was a goal just on half-time that Norfolk kicked through a turnover, which sort of put them in front by a point. But, full credit to the kid. He didn't shy away from the fact. He just continued to do what he does best, and that was to win the footy, and he'll get better at it.
Now, I've actually got a favourite player in the comp. It's Morrison, I reckon. I had a chat to him last year and talked about why he loves local footy, and I love listening to him. Like he said, I love this stuff. He talked about how much he loves it. Yeah. Kick three, he worked his socks off. He was gasping at air for one stage.
Yeah, he preferred to play back. Like he puts his hand up every week to play on, the best defender. But the way that we are at the minute, the way that we're setting up is we want some running players across our back line, whereas Ferg's not so much a running player. He's a good-sized lad.
Is that being polite? Or?
Yeah, that's being polite. He does work his backside off, but it's just his voice that's really important to us. And we need to play him up forward because he catches the ball well. Majority of the time he makes really good decisions by foot. So he's just a really good leader. And I think he's only like 22 or 23, so he's young. Yeah.
Bit of a tidbit on Big Ferg. He drives down to go to training from St Peter's Pass every week and go. So he lives up at St Peter's Pass. That's a fair journey. It
is, and that just goes to show how dedicated he is. He's one of our captains. We've got 3 captains because we just didn't know who to go with, and he's one of the 3. And just his leadership and his commitment. He's always first at training. Nothing's a hassle for him. He's always, wanting to help out. He's doing extra. He's fantastic.
No,
he made about 4 tackles. Like he ran
all right,
his socks
settle
off.
down there, Aaron. That's enough on Ferg out there for right now. But your footy club, the Brighton Robins, at the start of the year, it was much publicised that you had a bit of work to do to even get a team on the park. How did you combat that this year?
We didn't know whether we were going to have a team. But, to the committee's credit, that they just rang around and put some pressure on, and we went in. We didn't train one particular night, and we just got a list of players that had played at the Brighton Footy Club, and I just said to the players, right, get your phones out. You guys are going to ring these boys and see what they're doing, and if they're doing nothing, well, we need them to get down here. If they're not working, they need to be down here. So full credit goes to the playing group as well. They rang, their ex-teammates and their mates and just said, listen, this is what's going to happen if you don't come and help us out. And thankfully these guys made the decision to come and pull the boots back on and had a kick with us.
One thing that I do rate about the Robins out there, and I've seen this over the last few years, is that they do push their better players to take the next step to the TSL. They've got a couple of boys that have left the club to go and tip their hats at the TSL level. How do you feel about that, pushing the kids to go at that next level?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. And I've been the same when I was at Norfolk as well. But I'm a big believer, there's two roads that go, one comes into Brighton and one that goes out. So, if we're pushing players to better themselves, when those players have finished playing there, we'd like them to come back, or, for the TSL clubs to say, such and such isn't going to be playing this week, go back to local footy as well, which I'm a big believer of. But yeah, I'm happy for, any young kid to go and play at a high level. Yeah,
brilliant. Now, you as a person, Matty Smith, you've been around the traps a bit. You've started your career at New Norfolk. Tell us a little bit about your career as a coach. Not so much as a player, because you're a fantastic player, but as a coach.
Yeah, back in 2000, I started my coaching journey, and I went to a country town by the name of Leeton, which is in the Riverina. And I was just lucky enough to be asked by my former coach in Andrew Dale, which come down from Myrtleford, that if I'd be interested. And I thought I was a little bit too young, but I ended up jumping in the deep end and, jumping on the plane and going up there. Spent 4 years up there, which I loved every minute of it. It's a beautiful little town. And, and then came back and went to Kingston. And I think it was their first year in the SFL back then. And then left Kingston after 12 months and went back to Norfolk and coached Norfolk. And I've coached Norfolk for 8 or 9 years and had some wonderful times there.
To leave New Norfolk though and go to Brighton, was that a hard move?
It wasn't really a hard move. Norfolk wanted to go in a new direction, which was a little bit hard to swallow at the time.
So they told you that then, Matt? They wanted someone else or another option or open it up?
Well, they didn't necessarily tell me at the time, no. But I started to read between the lines that that's what they wanted to do. And then we sat down, myself and Ben, which was the Norfolk president, which I had a really good relationship with, and he felt that it was probably time that the club went in a new direction.
What is that direction? Do you know what it is?
No.
I'm not being flippant either. I'm just wondering what it is, because I've seen them play 3 times this year. They play exactly this, I should say, a very similar brand of football than what they did last year when they won a premiership under you. Yeah, well, no,
I don't know. And it'd be unfair of me to say, because I'm only hearing things secondhand, so I don't know whether there's any truth to it or not.
You need to wander down to Banjos, mate, in the main street. That's where the goss is in New Norfolk.
Yeah. Well, my assistant coach was there as well, and he ran Banjos, Robbie Isles, but he's no longer at Norfolk either. So.
Righto. There's good things happening out there at Brighton, mate. We might take a quick break here on the map and we'll come back and talk to you a little bit about the structure of footy in Tasmania, okay? We'll be right back in just a few moments.
There's a sound. It's the sound of new beginnings, the heartbeat of change. To some, it's a loud voice. To others, it gently whispers. You'll know that sound when you hear it. Listen. Start your search.
And thanks very much to Jackson Motor Company for their ongoing support. Welcome back, Matty Smith. Now, the structure of football in Tasmania. How do you see it, mate? Because there's a lot of talk about the TSL, SFL, regional footy. What would Matt Smith do?
Well,
and I should say, taking off your Brighton hat and being Matt Smith, what would you do, Matty Smith?
Well, I've spoken to a couple of TSL coaches over the last fortnight about football in Tasmania, and they've both got different ideas, and obviously my opinion is a little bit different to theirs. But personally, what I would do is I'd just go back to... Well, this all depends on whether there's a Mariners system and
I think the Mariners have been confirmed. That funding stream's been confirmed, so let's assume they're going to be there.
Yep, and the Devils. I thought that it worked really, really well back in the early 2000s when the Devils was there and it was just regional footy. But they're saying that the gap could be a little bit too great now for the Devils and regional footy. So I'm all for, if there is going to be a state league competition, I'm sort of a little bit inclined to agree with Paul Kennedy out at Glenorchy, where they just have a state league competition. Maybe it's at 6, 4 from Hobart, 2 from the north. So that means that one would have to leave from the south here, and no reserves footy. So it's a senior competition, and then what happens is the guys that don't play senior footy for, say, a Glenorchy, they go back to regional clubs, which will make regional football a lot stronger.
Matt, what about the integrity? 2 teams, clubs have said it. John McCann's been one. He said to me last year, 2 teams is important to keep the integrity of the club and the community going. And you're saying only 1 team.
Yeah, I think if you're going to run a state league competition the way that it is at the minute, it's not going to work, because you got obviously you got your development league teams, and they're not real strong anyway. And I know that they need that pathway to go through to play state league comps, but regional clubs now are closing the gap on development league. So what I would suggest is, you have your 1 Premier League team, which is your state league team. The guys that don't play in that team come back and play regional footy. And I know
this has
that
been trialled though in the North West Coast. Obviously, it was trialled. Devonport did it.
They're trying it in the VFL too,
and it kind of worked in Mersey Valley. It did work there.
Yeah,
didn't quite work as well up in Burnie, but that's for other reasons. So it has had some success, I suppose.
Yeah, but look, there's other things that you can do as well. And I know that clubs talk about the financial aspects, because it's really, really important for footy clubs to be financial. But like, say, for instance, a Brighton and a Norfolk, which we're in the Glenorchy region. I know that Brighton's in Clarence at the minute, but you could play curtain raisers there. You could have 2 or 3 games on the Saturday, and you could start to, generate some finances that way as well. And look, there's ways that you can, recoup your losses, basically. But I just think that we've got to start to look outside the square.
So the structure completely needs to change, in your opinion?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. It's pretty hard, though. I think that the issue that I have with the state league is that the best players aren't playing in the state league. I think there's certainly some players running around the SFL and the Old Scholars comps that should be playing in the TSL, but financially it makes no sense for those guys to go and play in a TSL game when they're getting certain amounts of money at the SFL and the Old Scholars League. So it's really hard. There's a lot to do with financing and funding and all that sort of stuff, but it's probably not a one solution fix, is it?
Possibly. Money certainly helps. It is a motivator, definitely a motivator. You look at Burnie at the moment, their biggest motivator to a week before the season had 7 blokes on the track. And then as soon as they said they weren't playing and they were playing in NTFA, they had 40 guys on the track. Most of those guys could still play state league footy. And it was commitment. So it wasn't just money. It wasn't money for them, and it was a commitment from them that was required to play state league.
And I think that's the same here in the South as well. Like when you've got clubs that are asking 3 nights a week plus a recovery maybe on a Sunday, and a lot of these players now are only like young kids, or they're just starting off with a young family. So it is a big commitment. So money isn't everything. But I think, once again, Kennedy out at Glenorchy's on the right path. They're doing 2 nights a week. He's putting the onus back onto the playing group to do their own recovery. And they're travelling at the minute as well. So, I think he's on the right path, but... Yeah.
He needs to be supported, I suppose.
Definitely.
No, there's certainly a lot of people out there that know what they're talking about, and that's why I asked you about it, Matt Smith, because you've got such great experience in Southern Tasmania in regional football as well. So we're going to park that for a minute, mate, and we're going to talk about the rep side, the SFL rep side that's coming up in June, Aaron?
Yeah, June 14th, I think. Just out here. We're in Duff Studios, North Hobart. It's around about half a drop kick from here. Yeah,
so you're co-coaching with Dan Willing. How have you got involved in that?
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer of rep footy, and I spoke to Tony, probably would have been about 3 or 4 months ago, and he asked if I'd be interested, and I said that I would, but every club had to buy in, and we had to, make these players aware that if they weren't going to buy in, that there would be consequences.
What are the consequences?
Well, I think the consequences are that you could miss a game of footy for your club.
Because last year, the rep game in WFL, you were at that one. Not a lot of New Norfolk players went to that game. Few were injured, legitimately. How do you encourage players to actually...
Well, firstly...
Or how do you encourage clubs?
You can get away with it. That's what I'm saying. Like, in the past, you were able to get away with it. There was no consequence. And guys would book holidays, or they would say that they're injured, and whether they were injured or not, nobody knows. But I think to play rep footy, you've got to have a legit, reason. And I just don't think that it cuts it anymore. I think if you want to be part of it, if you're playing SFL footy and the league asks you to play in a rep team, you have to make yourself available.
We should be proud of the response.
Yeah, it's an honour, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely an honour to put on the jumper.
Yeah.
So a couple of players from the Brighton Robins out there, Kyle Clark and Dan Scott, are playing. You've got, so I think there's a squad of
there's
40,
a decent squad. You're training soon, aren't you? I think your first training in a week, is it?
Yeah, on the first. Yeah.
So you've got 2 blokes that you currently coach, and you've got, I think there's
about 10
9 or
Norfolk
10
players,
Norfolk guys that you'd have experience with. How do you find that challenge of going from a club where you know all the players, and I'm sure you know all the players that are coming out from Cygnet and Huonville and all the like, but how do you go with that challenge of getting a whole new group for one game?
Yeah, well, I find it extremely exciting, and just to be able to work with the best players in the SFL. Obviously, there's 7 or 8 Norfolk players in there, 2 Brighton players, and then you've got the likes of young Doreen down at Cygnet, along with Caddo as well, that's in the squad. To be able to work with another coach and get to see him up close, and obviously Mickey Paul, which is probably the best player in the competition at the minute. And then you go to Claremont, which are sitting on top, and they've got so many good players as well. So it's extremely exciting. And I've spoken to a few guys that are in the squad, and just to ask their thoughts on it, and they're quite excited as well. And they're the better players in the competition, so they're all buying in.
You've been scouting the NTFA. It's got a little stronger the last couple of years after having a bit of a drop off, bringing on the team from the east. So.
I only look at the paper,
just
and have a look and just sort of think who might be in and who mightn't be in. So, but Daniel and I just sort of focused on the boys down here and hopefully putting the best SFL team available out in the park.
And it'll be great to see SFL rep footy here at North Hobart in a couple of weeks here on Duff TV. Matty Smith, we might let you go, mate. We know you've got training in a few minutes, so we'll let you get out of here. We've got a 6-pack of Furphy for you, courtesy of our sponsor, so that'll probably last you till about the Brooker in there somewhere, Matty. But thanks so much for coming in, mate, and we really appreciate it. Rightio, we'll cut it there, have a quick break, and come back with some Old Scholars nostalgia in just a few minutes.
Outside 50, can he get around? He can. Left foot kick. Not to the advantage of a teammate. Very close to the boundary line. Manages to keep it in. Goes with the left foot. Kicks a goal! Oh, what a goal! From the boundary line. Thank you very much. His teammates nearly strangled him to death.
So that was SFL 2005 Reserves Grand Final, and I want to see this again here in a minute, Peach, because I've got some interesting information. Have a look at this. This is a ripping goal.
Yeah, it's a good goal. I mean, he's in a phone booth. There's no space. It's 3 new Norfolk players. Gets it onto his right boot.
Now, what I want to know is, who is that man down the front there in the jeans? We'll see him here again in a minute. He's the water boy or a streaker or something.
Person.
And look at this. He's got jeans on. He goes out to give a drink. Doesn't.
Well, he didn't actually even pass it to the actual player. Just kicked one of the best goals of his life.
So
did he even squirt him with the bottle or something? I'm not actually sure what happened.
You out there in Duff TV land, we want to know who that person was in the jeans with the drink bottle. If you can get in touch with us through our Duff TV Facebook site, you can get a 6-pack of Furphy just for telling us who this person is. We'll see him here again in a minute.
We want to know who the runner is.
That bloke down there in the jeans just waddling out there now. Who is that? And we want photo proof. We'll give you a 6-pack, and if you know that person in the jeans, we'll give them a 6-pack as well.
Sounds great. He could be actually the most clove streaker of all time, though, as well.
All right, Aaron, that's enough of that. There's been no Old Scholars games in the last 2 weeks. We had the washout 2 weeks ago, and then last week there was a round bye. But you're going to take us through the ladder there, Aaron.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Besides St Virgil's, pretty much everyone else is in the race, including Hutchins, who've only won a couple. Can't quite work out if it's Uni, Dosa, and maybe even Richmond are the sort of form sides at the moment. It's really intriguing. They're sort of the teams on top. OHA too. I think they're a real chance. So it's a very, very close field at this stage in the Old Scholars.
It certainly is. So no footage this week from the Old Scholars, but what we're going to do here at Duff TV is take a walk down memory lane. We've got the last 17 years of grand finals, so let's check out some of the highlights.
Wiggins working hard. Dawson did well. Handball over the top. Zakoris. This will definitely finish the game. Zakoris, the Serbian superstar, kicks a goal. 38th minute of the last quarter. You wouldn't read about this. Siren There's the siren, it's happened. Probably the longest quarter in football history. But it doesn't matter. IHA, the Ships, have won the premiership. 20 years in the making.
21-point lead, 10-minute mark of the second quarter, and the Hutchins Lions on top, and Cleary again did well. Down in turn to Werther. Ball the fall. Jack Boone swoops on it, screws around his shoulder. Don't tell me he's bent another one back. Jack Boone, you beauty.
Yes, nothing like a little bit of rockabilly just to get us warmed up here at North Hobart Oval. Traditional national anthem going on as we speak, and the boys from Dose are looking pretty pumped up. Well, what they do is they turn up and they win flags. The Premiers in 2012, 2010, back-to-back in 06, 07 and 02, 03. They've been the dominant force. It's perfect day for footy, quite frankly. Taken out of the air, doing really well. There was Veach. Snap on goal. Roosters are away. In turn, they're going to go forward here. That's a pretty good kick. Over the back is a chance. Fisher's looming. He's already kicked one. He's taken with that as a footy, I reckon. The umpire said no. Nichols clever at the back. Got the hands away, but it only went as far. And Dosa again are away here. They've got a couple. And Nathan Abrahams with a goal. Best on ground in the second semi-final, Michael Egan. Kick was not a good one, but from the side, a big fly, Declan McShane. Everyone up the ground here. This is a big opportunity because the little racehorse Fisher runs inside 50. He'd love to finish with a goal, and Fisher does!
Oh, what a moment, Flash.
Party time for the Roosters. 27 points the margin. Siren! And the little red rooster will sing again. Dosa, the 2013 Premiers.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, we're the mighty Dosa team. One man, one king, one city.
It is Dosa versus Richmond for the seniors. Finds his teammate there in Midson. Midson handballs off to Golding. Kicks long.
Oh, great.
And
George down Marshall. Comes the hammer.
This is better from the Blues, though. Going forward, inside 50 here, boys.
Gilmore looked to impose himself on the footy. Handballs out nicely to Tennick. Tennick's got time to assess his options. Goes long and gets the goal. Very quick kick out into the path of the Armadillo, who looks like he's got high knees. Just ducks the head and then plays on. Now shows a bit of pace here. Just needs to settle and kick the goal. And he does, and he takes the helmet off. Look at him.
The helmet's off.
Well, that's what he looks like. We're going to finish up now with a man out there who runs around all the different SFL venues. That is Dave Harding. He takes photographs at all the different games each week, and you can see them on the Facebook SFL site. Now, there is a man running out for his 300th game.
Justin Harvey. How many years? 23 years was it, Tubes?
23 years between his first game and his 300th game out there at Hobart Tigers. He had a few years. There's Mickey Paul, of course.
Apparently the best player in the comp, according to Matt Smith.
Well, Matt Smith would know. He's a big man. He got discounted a couple of goals too by the club. Apparently he's filthy about it. So
and there's a great support of Jungle.
Yeah, Jungle, of course, with the drums there. He's got the no drum kit there by the looks of things. And look at this bloke. Have a look at that haircut.
He got votes, this guy on the weekend, best haircut.
the comb over running.
Or maybe no haircut.
No haircut. Jeepers creepers. All right. Well, next week, Aaron, where are we heading?
We are going to head down over the saddle to Huonville versus Dodgers Ferry. And also on the map, we'll be covering the Southern Women's Footy League Grand Final replay. Southeast Suns versus Lindisfarne Blues down at Cygnet. And then in the city, we're going to be at the bike track in Newtown. We're going to see some Virgils who are improving against Hutchins, which might be relatively close. Yeah, my man Mickey Paul will be stoked that he'll be here on the map once more. He'll be loving that. Just clunking a few down there at Huonville Oval. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that about winds it up for this week. Aaron, thanks so much for joining us. Of course, Matty Smith as well. Furphy, Jackson Motor Company, and my name's Tubes Taylor. We will see you next week here on the map. Here's Furphy Play of the Day. It starts with Sullivan in the back line for the Hobart Tigers. He kicks it to the centre of the TCA.
Reeves comes through with a fist, and then a nice little contest here at the bottom of the pack. Quick handball up by Freeman, and there he is. Newman on the left goes bang from inside the centre circle, and it dribbles through for a goal. It is your beer this week, Callan Newman. Get in touch with us here, Callan, to get your carton of Furphy.